Hello, and welcome to this interesting and insightful fireside chat, Reimagining Education, Making It Fair, Equitable in a VUCA World. To lead the discussion, I am joined by two eminent leaders, Major Harsh Kumar, Secretary, National Council of Educational Research and Training, and Mr. Gary Sorrentino, Global Deputy CIO, Zoom. Gentlemen, I welcome both of you. With academic institutions switching from remote to hybrid to in-person learning and back again over the past 18 months, faculty, administrators, and students had to re-examine their notions of what education looks like. Now, schools and universities are weighing how to improve equity, inclusiveness, accessibility, and engagement as they emerge from the pandemic to meet the needs of current and future students. The big question that looms, however, is how do we make education fair and equitable for every learner across the world? So, Major Harsh Kumar, your opening remarks.
A very good evening to all of the esteemed speakers and the listeners who are there. And I personally thank you all, the organizers, to invite me here to share my views. The face of education has changed. At the same time, I would say that there is no alternative for face-to-face education. Seeing the current scenario, it is sure that we have to go for blended mode of education. And slowly the schools are opening up. And one of the most important thing in the school life is interaction with the peer group, which is happening and which has to happen, which cannot happen on online mode. So in short, it is there that we have to see the technology has to be there, but at the same time, it should empower us and not to overpower us. We have to see how much we have to use it, because no doubt, the kids have become capable, even the younger kids have been capable of using the gadgets and all, but at the same time, they are losing on their vocabulary, on their writing skill, on their speaking skill. So that also has to be taken care of. So we have to use it with precautions.
Right. Let me go to Gary. It's an extremely VUCA world that we live in today. If one was to crystal gaze, what, according to you, does the future hold for the education sector? And how can one prepare for it? Over to you.
Good afternoon. Yes, thank you very much for having me. What a great question. I think one of the things that the education system has to consider is their ability to recruit students going forward. Because I think one of the things the pandemic showed us is there are alternate ways to learn. And so I think as we've come through this pandemic, more options have opened up. Just like remote workers, remote students now have figured out how they want to learn, where they want to learn, and even in some cases when they want to learn. Could be possibly even in an asynchronous mode. So I think those alternate routes to education that maybe sometime were deemed as secondary routes, might even want to say inferior to traditional programs, are now being accepted. And I think that institutions need to really, like companies, they need to transform. The Gen Zs and the millennials are looking at things a lot differently. We have to figure out, this is a generation that was brought up on technology, a little different than us. They've had technology in their hands since they were born. And I think right now, educational institutions need to start reevaluating how they're teaching lessons, not just convert the lesson to virtual, but change it so that these new paths that the students want to take, we're capable of teaching them in that manner. And I think just like all corporations, educational institutions, we need to move out of our comfort zone. Okay, we need to figure out tomorrow is a new place and it's a new way of doing business. And it's going to be a challenge for those those institutions who don't get into the lane and figure out that tomorrow is going to be a different world than yesterday.
Major Harsh, one of the biggest challenges of our times is to make education fair and equitable for every learner across the world. Is it possible to achieve? And if yes, how?
See, in the pandemic period, with the limited resources, our schools have come up in a very beautiful manner. Within a week or 10 days, classes has started in all throughout India, obviously in big cities. and teachers, though they were not well equipped with the technology, but then it came in no time. So as it is said that, whenever there is a requirement, we come up with that. And that we have shown during the pandemic, the use of technology, the invent of technology during that period, and the schools coming up with the infrastructure. And now with the things opening up, they have strengthened their technological requirements or infrastructure. However, India is not a small country. We are a vast country, and we have got, that population of age group of learning is in next 25 years it will be the largest in the world. So our aim is that education reaches to the last children sitting in the farthest remotest village, and the government is working towards that. Let me inform you that NCRT, in that pandemic, we have not stopped, we have not slept for a single day. It means that work was going on, and we came up with the first phase of the pandemic in 2020. And then it was refined later on, revisited in 21 also for the primary, secondary classes. We had come with the informative videos, and now under Prime Minister e-Vidya program, we are running from class 1 to class 12, we are running separate channels free to air. So all these things are, obviously we are going towards that. And I said in earlier that okay, you can take education where you want to do, where do you want to take, but then there cannot be an alternative. Can you learn football online? Can you learn experiments of science online? Yes, understanding can be made better by visuals, but then you have to do it in lab to understand it in real sense. So there has to be a mix. Obviously, all the schools across the country, and as I told you that India is not a small country. We are a huge country, and we have to see that our resources, our infrastructure increases everywhere. We are moving towards that, and it is not a magic wand. We are working towards it, and our education policy, national education policy, is also speaks a lot about this, and that was developed when this pandemic was not there. But that also speaks of use of technology in a larger manner, in a manner which has to be amalgamated with the curriculum. And there are so many things like there is a, the curriculum has been changed. It has been seen that interdisciplinary studies has been given importance. So all these things, yes, we will reach. And there is a discussion going on in the country that how we have to mix this technology. Definitely technology will have an hand, but we cannot give an upper hand to all the things. So children have to go to school to learn the creative thinking, out of box thinking, innovative thinking, social mixing up, understanding their peer group, because ultimately the aim of education is to become a good human being. So how they can become good human being? It is not only the use of technology. Like I said, I say everywhere, the technology is to empower us and not to overpower us. That is just a medium to understand the things, to do the things. So this is the thing, and our, history will remain history. We have to learn our history. We have to know about ourselves. We have to know about our society. We have to know about our rivers. Yes, we can understand in a better manner with the use of technology how the river flows, where the mountain is situated, what is the geographical position of different countries. But then it is not that with the technology you can change the geographical position of a mountain from Mount Everest from one place to place B. So this is the thing that we have to invent ways, or we have to make a thought process, and that is will depend on place to place. In a smaller countries, the policies can quickly, but in country like ours will require time. But we are definitely moving towards it. The government is working very hard towards it, and we'll definitely achieve the aim of our national education policy, and we will achieve through technology also, and with the use of our earlier Indian knowledge system. Thank you.
Thank you, Major Harsh. And I think what you said is about the technology is definitely technology is the future, and we are gearing up towards adopting the hybrid mode of education. So I would like to ask Gary, how can technology be leveraged to create powerful and immersive learning experiences that would not be possible in a traditional in-person classroom?
That's a great follow-on question. And one of the parts when we do talk about technology, I am going to agree with Major on that, is that you can't learn football over technology. But for the learning experience, the classroom part experience, I think we're going to see technology in areas of AR and VR. I mean, right now, we're just starting in this area to bring them into the classrooms. We're starting to figure out how to do things like alternate reality whiteboarding, where I can actually be at the classroom screen and I'm writing on the board and doing a Post-it note as an avatar, at home with a set of Oculus glasses on and things like that. But I think this is the beginning. We're looking at things like AR and VR, and we use all these terms, machine learning, AI. I think right now today, we have these tools where we can start to bridge this distance learning, and we're going to start to figure out how to make that classroom immersive, equal, right? What we don't want to see is I don't want to be home and I don't want to see one box with 12 students and I can't really see which student raised their hand, right? We want it to be equitable so that there's technology coming out that will divide the classroom up into several boxes, as they say. But I do think that we're seeing artificial intelligence come in place, and that's where that comes in place. Note-taking, some of those tasks that even the corporations are looking at to say, how do we make employees productive? How do we make students productive? And how do we make sure that we're giving them technology that makes the experience maybe better than the classroom in some cases, right? For the traditional learning. And how do we continue to break down these barriers? Because there's a section that thinks technology is going to take us into a more immersive learning, and there's a section that says maybe it's not. And what we have to do is we have to just keep experimenting with the technology. It's all new to us. I don't think anybody fathomed 2 years ago that we would be able to teach our students in such a large capacity virtually. That was, I know 2 years ago, if we were sitting down together and we had this conference and we said, look, in 2 months, we're going to send all the students home, I think all of us would have went impossible. But technology came up to create that immersive experience, and it's moving very, very fast. But I do think that there are a couple of technologies like AR and VR where we need to keep testing it. We need to keep challenging the technology. I think we also need to do something different. It's not just about technology. So I do agree with Major. It's also about taking the technology and then teaching, that's a good word, teaching the instructors and the students, teaching them how to learn in a different way. Not just giving them the tools, but showing them how to use these tools so that it amplifies an immersive learning experience, that they get the most out of it, that it's not just, what do we say? It's not a change of modality. I didn't decide not to go to the class today, but I don't want to be like I'm on YouTube watching the class. I want to have that immersive experience, but not everybody knows how to use all the tools that are going to be available. So I think it's a combination of two. I think we're going to see powerful technology coming our way, and we need to keep challenging it. But I also think that we're going to have to instruct people how to use this new technology to get the full advantage of it, because it's not going to be just self-taught.
Technology can make things very easy, but it has to be used wisely. That is what Major Harsh was saying in his first response. Major Harsh, not only technology can make the classroom attractive, but the emerging technologies, as Gary was talking about, AI, AR, VR, ML, can make curriculum also attractive. Let me ask you another aspect of this fireside chat. Parents want to be better connected to their children's education, while educators strive to create additional flexibility for students with unique needs or home lives. What role can technology play in achieving these goals?
See, during this pandemic, when the children were taking this online classes, they have become very smart. What they are doing on their gadgets, it is difficult to find out whether they are attending their classes with camera on, camera off, or switching on to other programs while their classes are going on. So the use of technology is very good, and what Gary said about virtual reality and artificial reality. So this you always remember the word that it is virtual first, then reality, and it is artificial first, then reality. And by giving or understanding the things through virtual reality, artificial intelligence is very good. We are providing the information in making it like a real sense. So we are getting that information that obviously will become knowledge when they understand it better and in a better form, and through technology that will become this thing will become very clear in their minds. The concept will become clear in their mind. But the vital question is whether that is going to convert into wisdom or not, because ultimately which they are going to use in their life or livelihood is the wisdom. So how the wisdom will come? That will only come with creative thinking. So can you inculcate creative thinking through yes, it is very good that we in our times did not have this information on YouTube or Google that you type and you get all the, yesterday my son studying in class 7, and he was telling that, Papa, do you know how this Google functions? So I said, it must be functioning through satellites. He said, no, you don't know. I have seen this video of that facts that this functions because when you are passing through a road which is very busy, so many people are using this Google. So that Google reads through the other equipment, how many equipment are being used, and that is why it will show whether the traffic is fine or it is dense traffic or whatever is there ahead, 5 kilometers ahead, 10 kilometers ahead. So definitely it is, knowledge they are getting, information they are getting abundantly, but will that convert into real-time wisdom? For that, we have to monitor, and parents have understood this. You ask any parent, I bet one will say that school is a must because they have been in the home, and now the parents have understood what they must be doing in the classroom also. What is their attitude and what is their aptitude? So this, let me tell you that NCERT has developed a booklet for the training of parents also. The booklet has been developed how to use technology. So these all things are there, and I am not, what Gary is saying is very absolutely correct, that yes, we have to use technology, and technology is being used, and without technology we cannot think of moving ahead. But at the same time we have to understand that this is the same thing which the entire world is debating, and it has started. But if you see in other nations vis-a-vis India, we have a classroom size somewhere at 60 or 70. So it will be difficult to monitor through online because there are 100, 120. So resources also have to be developed. And like I told you, that government is working towards it. Going to the farthest village, there are many plans which are going. Connectivity is being made through various. I can't discuss all the plan here, what is being done, but yes, government is very serious on this, and parents also know. And definitely, time tomorrow is that blended mode of education coming to schools. All classes will not be called every day, and practical classes, and coming to the school on alternative days or group on alternative days. And it is much easier, like we are having conversations sitting any corner of the world. This is all advantage of technology, that we can share our views, we don't have to travel. So there are pluses and minuses, and all we have to see that we balance it, seeing the situation of the country, seeing the situation of a place, seeing the demand of a place. So that all has to, जैसे हम कहते हैं, देश काल परिस्थिति के अनुसार हमें चलना पड़ेगा. Thank you.
Right, Major Harsh, and I think in a pandemic-like situation when the entire world, not only India, we are currently reeling under the COVID-19 crisis. So technology has helped, ensuring the continuity of learning. And my next question to Gary about the same is, Gary, is there an innovative one-stop shop kind of a technology platform that can help connect academic institutions for teaching and learning, parents meeting, faculty interviews, tutoring sessions, community events, and many more?
So of course, I got to say, one of the platforms is Zoom does this today, right? In some of the cases, Zoom currently supports about 125,000 EDU domains. And I think in 1 year learning, they did 95 billion minutes of learning. So Zoom is one of the platforms that you can use to that. I mean, it's used all over the world. You know, it's used for teaching, right? For learning purposes. Definitely parent teacher conferences. They do faculty meetings, faculty interviews on it. Many tutoring sessions. That's helped out a great lot. Yes, of course, we support those community events. And, you know, it's all over the world. Like I just found out the other day, we're even in the Antarctic, which I didn't actually think I expected. But I think going forward, you know, one-stop shopping, even platforms like Zoom, we're moving towards transcription, and we're moving towards translation, bidirectional translation, because now we want students, teachers, and parents to be able to converse and learn in a language that they feel comfortable with. And so basically I can ask a question soon in a language and the teacher will hear it in her primary language and she can teach it and I can hear it in my primary language. But in a lot of places in the world, we also have the parents who might not speak a common language. And so we need to be able to have those parent-teacher conferences in languages that they both understand. And so I think what you're going to see is we're going to see platforms like Zoom develop over the next year. Communication is a key to using it as an education platform. And it's also going to help us to have students around the world interact. I mean, think about this. It's 4:30 in the afternoon there. I'm Zooming in, as they say, to meet here. If I didn't speak, if this wasn't in English, I could do this in another country in the language they're most comfortable with and in the language I'm most comfortable with. So now what happens is we can really globalize the learning platform. And it would be great if classrooms all over the world could invite people from all over the world globally to attend these classes without having to worry about language barriers like we did before. I mean, we talked about, you know, a lot of people are on LinkedIn, Google, they're all learning in different ways because they're finding content in the way that they want to consume education. And so now there are these platforms, I think, are all going to mature, especially over the next 12 months. Because over the next 12 months, we are really going to see the changes that we thought of in the last 2 years as we go back to hybrid. Because I think a lot of places are still virtual. And now the schools are starting to go back to hybrid depending on where you are. But hybrid is really the solution we have to solve for, not 100% in the classroom or 100% at home. Those goalposts are a little easier, but it's the mix in the middle. And if we want to start introducing alternate content, better content, global content, these platforms are going to have to come up to that challenge. And so I think today, innovative one-stop, there's a lot of platforms that are getting to a certain point, but I think watching them over the next year is going to, we ask this question next year and there's going to be probably a different answer.
If we can achieve the language barriers, we can brave all these barriers. So we can definitely achieve the global standards of education sitting anywhere across the world. We can have the translated content, we can have the accessibility to content globally. Major Harsh, my last question to you is, what is the way forward?
Way forward that we have to, जैसे कि हमारे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा है, सबका सहयोग, सबकी सहभागिता. तो सबका प्रयास जब रहेगा इस तरफ, और हम लोग उसी पे लगे हुए हैं कि हम लोग अपना प्रयास किस प्रकार से दे सकते हैं, और हमारी सारी संस्थाएं इस बात पे लगी हों, चाहे हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी हो, चाहे हमारे स्कूल्स हों, वो सभी इसी तरफ लगे हुए हैं कि हम इसको किस प्रकार से हम इसको पा सकते हैं. आप देखिए कि राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति में एक अम्ब्रेला कॉन्सेप्ट की परिकल्पना की गई है. यह आप समझें कि इसको अकेले कोई सरकारी एजेंसी या केवल सरकारें ही नहीं कर सकती. हमें दूसरों का सहयोग भी चाहिए, सबका सहयोग चाहिए, समाज का सहयोग चाहिए. और इस वजह से एक अम्ब्रेला कॉन्सेप्ट है जिसमें कि जो संसाधन युक्त विश्वविद्यालय हैं, स्कूल हैं, वो अपने संसाधनों का यूज, उसका इस्तेमाल जो संसाधन से युक्त विहीन स्कूल्स हैं या कॉलेजेस हैं उनको गोद लें, यूनिवर्सिटीज उन कॉलेजेस को, उन स्कूल्स को गोद ले, जो स्कूल हैं संसाधन युक्त वो अपने आसपास के स्कूलों को गोद लें और वहां के बच्चों को पढ़ाएं, क्योंकि हमारा बच्चा, हम भारतवर्ष सिर्फ शहरों में नहीं बसता है, वो गांवों में बसता है और छोटी छोटी जगहों के बच्चों का भी तो वही अधिकार है। बच्चे तो सारे बच्चे हैं और वो अगर कल को वो नहीं पढ़ लिख के आगे बढ़े तो पूरा भारत कैसे प्रोग्रेस करेगा। इसलिए ये
I think there is some technological issue with Major Harsh. We will go back to him. In the meantime, Gary, what do you think should be the way forward?
So part of it, I agree with what he said. You know, I understand that he's talking about how people need to work together, the government and schools. The larger schools need to help the smaller schools. I think that was all very well said. But I also think that it's the essence of what we're talking about today, right? Reimagining the school system, reimagining the way we learn and the way we teach. And I think that really that was when I read the summary of today and I saw the question about way forward, I'm like, that's the way forward. Like companies who are doing business transformation, schools need to transform. But I do think that the way forward is the best person that we need to ask about how to learn forward are the students. How do they want to learn going forward? A new generation of students are coming to us with different ideas. They've changed what they've thought about learning over the last couple of years. They want to do the same thing that employees want to do. They want a hybrid experience. They want to know that I'm not going to that classroom from 8 to 5 every day or 8 to 3, whatever the schedule is, just because that's the way mom and dad did it. All right. They want to know that they're using their life in a better way. And I want to go to that school to watch a football game, to play a football game, to commingle with my peers, to attend labs. But I really think that the name of this topic today, reimagining, that is the way forward. It's how are we going to sit down, figure out where we are, and finally put together a forward game plan, because we've tested all the norms and we proved we can do better. And so the potential for teaching in a better way, the potential for possibly even shortening the education cycle, right? Because today we can learn in different ways. How can we make it so that we raise the quality, we engage at a different level, we teach in a different level, and possibly at the end, right, end up with students who are learning more in a shorter period of time. So I think there's a lot to look at and change, but almost like the way a CEO thinks of a business, right? He has to constantly morph his business. In one case, his clients. In this case, the clients are students. And so I think if we constantly try to reimagine this, we constantly challenge the norms, we will end up in a much better place on a global basis.
In the meantime, Gary, there are questions from the audience also. So I think I can ask you a couple of questions. Those are relevant to you. There is one question from the audience that we have age-old syllabus currently, running in our educational institutions. Seeing the current technology adoption and the requirement of industry and society, do you feel this age-old syllabus is okay, or we need to transform our curriculum as well?
So I come from the spirit that yesterday worked, but it's not good enough for tomorrow. And what got us here today is not going to get us here next year. And so my answer is no. The answer is, how do we upgrade the syllabus? How do we make it a different learning experience? And I think that maybe the education system worked the way it was, just like some companies. It was what worked last year should work next year. But I think the pandemic taught us this. Our constituents are thinking differently. And any company, any educational institution, they have to think differently, because this affected the teachers and the students. And the teachers are thinking about a different way to teach, and the students are thinking about a different way to learn. And the and the educational institutions who are not moving forward and saying, wait a second, our employees, the teachers want to teach in a different way. Our clients, the students want to learn in a different way. How do we make that happen? So I'm always going to say that what's happening this year is not what's going to get us there next year.
Gary, another question to you is, what are the best practices a school should follow in a hybrid education mode?
Yep. I think as I work with education institutions all over the world, and I think the thing that they're trying to do in a hybrid world is first, they're trying to figure out equality. We want to make it that in the hybrid world, we don't see that in-classroom students are getting an advantage over virtual students and vice versa, right? We want to make sure that's the first thing. Sure, for the first time, both methods of teaching are equal, right? There's no advantage because as we're moving towards more an inclusive world, right now we can get people maybe who have disabilities who can't come to a classroom or who maybe possibly weren't as active in the classroom environment, but now they've been working virtually and they're responding to learning. They're being active in the classroom. The introverts became extroverts in some cases, right? And so we can't lose that first. That's the first thing we have to think about. And then along the way, we can upgrade what's going on. But I think at the end of the day, we have to figure out how to maintain that equality that we've achieved and make it better going forward.
One more question that is directed to you, Gary, is how can Zoom play a role in educating children and adults who are in rural areas and have no access to formal education? I think Major Harsh was talking a lot about inclusive education, adoption of technology, and the efforts of the government. So where can a private sector like Zoom play a role?
Well, he also talked about, involvement of the government, but also the larger schools need to help their smaller schools. And I think Zoom is working with this. Zoom is actually working with people like MIT Solve, which is trying to figure out how can we find people who don't have access to computers and internet. MIT Solve worked with a company that puts, for lack of a better word, huts in places where people could go to learn, solar powered, satellite driven. So they can charge their devices, they can do their homework on their own devices, but they can go there and they can learn. So I think Zoom is looking at the challenges ahead and how can we continue to support the educational system, where our goal is also how do we figure out how to make it so people who don't have access to education can get it, either through Zoom at home, through a tablet, through part of it is getting the device to the individual, but part of it is also having the support network to connect them. And I think Zoom we're really looking at that now. We're looking at the way the classroom's being designed a little differently. We're making it in some cases where they can see the screen and the students there and they can take attendance easier, things like that. But I think a lot of this is about how are we going to make it so that people who don't have direct access today can have access tomorrow.
We have a very active audience today. So again, a very good question. We were talking about using emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning. So one person has asked, use of AI and ML in education sounds well, but how effective in terms of reality and correctness? So I think he wanted to ask, what are the practical challenges of adopting these emerging technologies in education sector?
We're at the beginning of these, and you're going to see us use these going forward in a lot of ways. AR, machine learning, they were mostly for the enterprises. I don't think 2 years ago, if we said AR and machine learning inside the classroom, that didn't fit the traditional model. So the question was, how effective in terms of reality and correctness? Beginning stages to look at it. How do we, but I think today, finally, there's a push to make these technologies work better than before. And so, great question. Is it going to solve everything today? I don't know, right? I don't think it's at a level where we can say, in technology, we have the term, what is it? Minimum viable product, MVP, right? And in the education sector, these are now becoming minimum viable products, and we will morph these products into what they need. But I think also the education system needs to tell companies like Zoom, what do they need? So the balance is we're building what the students and the teachers need. So it's a two-way street there. I think Major's back on.
Right, Gary, thank you for these insights. I think Major Harsh Kumar has also joined. So I'll take one last question with Major Harsh. Sir, how challenging it will be when students will come back to classes after 2 years of online teaching learning process?
See, those things are not challenges, I'll say. There is opportunity in every challenge. And, even children, they are very eager to go to school because they have known to use the gadgets and all. And, like the discussion is going on in that direction only, that we have to use technology, and there'll be a blended mode of education and all. But yes, in some manner, we have to unlearn them, and they have to be made a relearning process of actually writing skill and speaking skill, the vocabulary, the use of vocabulary, that has all gone down. And in real sense, that has gone down because they have gone used to multiple choice of question like test. They become used to of that. And not all children are that conscious that they are using their writing skills in this pandemic period also, though schools are trying. But relearning process has to start, and schools have started it in India. Schools have opened it from 9 to 12. They are calling the students in alternative days, and the students are also taking keen interest in that. And obviously this has made a lot of effect on the school going children. But then as the situation goes on, uh, we are coping up with that, and schools have got their own methodology. And like I told you, that NCRT has come up with the alternative way of learning, alternative calendar for all stages of school, which is available online also. And in fact, very many countries have also appreciated this kind of what we have made, this SOP kind of a thing. And in fact, all schools are also coping up with that. So I don't think there is a problem. We have to look after the what is the opportunity in every problem. And one opportunity is that children have become acquainted to the gadgets, the use of technology, the use of AR, IR. Even a small kid of class 1 and 2, now they are using YouTube very frequently to get some knowledge. But with that, like I said, that relearning process of the writing skills and all, and schools are opening up, and they are coming up with innovative measures, so that the child goes back to the school and become like a normal class, normal routine starts again. Thank you.
Not only students, I think parents, teachers, and the entire ecosystem has become tech savvy with this pandemic came into picture.
Yes, definitely.
Major Harsh, with your closing remarks, we'll end this conversation. Over to you.
I think in one line I would say that it has to be participation of everybody to overcome this situation. As in pandemic also, we saw that with the limited resources also, our country has achieved remarkable things. And we have got 100 crores vaccination done, which was very many people were thinking that this will not be possible in a country like India, but we have done it. So participation of all of us, wherever we are, whatever we are, because children are our tomorrow. And with our concept of that entire world is a brotherhood, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and we have to move ahead together. Together we have to learn, and we have to learn how to live together. That has been our concept, and we are moving towards that also. So children of not of our country, of India, but obviously of the entire world, are the future for tomorrow world. So how we want tomorrow's world, that all depends on us today, that how we teach our children and how we participate, how we overcome this period. Because this period is also now 2 year was pandemic. Now we have to overcome with that, and that process has to be fastened up. And I pray to God that this never happens again, and good sense prevail everywhere. That we have to help each other. We have to get on together. We have to I will not say struggle together, but we have to fight together. with all this situation. And we are one of those countries which we believe that entire world is our nation. Entire world is our brothers and sisters. वसुधैव कुटुंबकम. तो उसी अवधारणा के साथ हमें आगे बढ़ना पड़ेगा. And I thank and I hope Gary has understood what I've said. I have used little bit Hindi, but I can translate it if Mr. Gary wants, and we can converse on a private note also. There is no problem at all. So there is, if that has caused discomfort, I put up my apologies. But then I think that the others who are understanding it, most of the people who are understanding it from India, and we all have to come up with a methodology that we all contribute in a positive manner and think positive about it. Thanks a lot. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Namaskar.
Thank you, Major Harsh. And with these thoughts, I think we have reached to the conclusion that flexible, customizable, and technology-enhanced learning opportunities can improve access to high-quality instruction for both remote learners and on-site students. Schools and universities are already gaining access to advanced tools that will allow them to transform education, and the pace of adoption will accelerate as those tools become more widely available. With this, I conclude the discussion and thank our guest speakers, Major Harsh Kumar, Secretary, National Council of Educational Research and Training, and Mr. Gary Sorrentino, Global Deputy CIO, Zoom, for sharing their expertise and knowledge with us. Thank you so much.